Welcome to summer, everybody. Wow. We will take this. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Double Shot of Steelers. Comes your way at 4 p.m. Eastern every weekday. We are going to be talking about the middle of the football field today, but first we will acknowledge what our friend Carol brings up, that it is nice to see the sun in 77 degrees. Been a while. You know, I don't know that that's 77. What is it out there now? Because there's something about the downtown effect, you know, when it hits the cement, that it really holds that heat and fires it back up at you. It's really something out there. It's got to be in the 80s. Got to be, right? Yeah? Don't know. It's warm, and it's fun, and I'm okay with it. I'm also all juiced up. And look, even the people at the Starbucks across the street are in a good mood with a little thank you message. 83, she says, feels like 84. And that means that in downtown, it probably feels like 90 hitting the cement the way it is. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. We're going to talk today about the middle of the field as it relates to the draft in particular. Because when I'm thinking of this draft class in general, I'm thinking of the defensive tackles. It's really hard not to think of them. I still believe if I was putting some kind of percentage on it, we're going to get Chris Halleck's view on this here after the break, that there's probably about a 75% chance that the Steelers will end up with a DT. And I say that partly because of, you know, no Larry Ogunjobi, looking for the next Cam Hayward, everything else, but way more because there's just so many of them. And it's such a strong, strong class in that regard. And if you can address that position emphatically in any given year, and you're still the Pittsburgh Steelers somewhere deep down inside, you're going to go after that. You're not going to hesitate. You're not going to worry about what you already have, or maybe a position that would be of greater need on offense or whatever. You're going to go ahead and get your DT. Now, as it relates, no hoodie. I was going to say I usually throw it over there, but I didn't even bring one today. The same, though, applies to the other side of the ball. Because as much as, you know, we'd all love to see, and have been saying this for years, the Steelers throw to the middle of the field. That's been more of a quarterback thing than it's been anything else. You have the tight ends. You have people who can catch the ball over the middle. How about running to the middle of the field effectively? Jaylen Warren is a guy who I think a lot of people think of, kind of a smaller back, and because he can hit the edge, that he's more of an outside. He's not. When you think of Jalen's more effective runs, his bigger production games, he's doing this. He's going right through a guard in the center. He's just pounding. And he's getting, of course, those angry yards as well. If you can command, and this is my 30,000-foot view on this, if you can command the middle of the field, then you're the Eagles. And then a lot of things are possible. And then you don't need to necessarily walk into that stadium with the quarterback wearing a cape and so forth. This is going to be a fun talk today. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Chris and get into this some more.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Getting all these weather reports from everybody now. 70 Lancaster says the PEF. He's mowing the lawn and listening to this show. I can picture the PEF doing that while also, expressing his commentary to everybody around him as he's cutting the grass. How are you, Chris?
Doing great, man. I can tell you, as somebody who lived in Texas for 23 years and married a native Texan, days like today are very, very pleasant.
Oh, pleasant, like as in cooling off a little bit, huh?
Oh no, like after 6 solid months of cooler weather, and for a native Texan, definitely colder weather, we're definitely enjoying it.
Good stuff. Already getting good feedback on all of this here, because as I mentioned, the middle of the field, multiple somebodies actually have already understood the assignment. It's not just throw over the middle. It's run through the middle. It's funny, for all the stuff that Art Rooney brought up in his January session, maybe the one that got kind of the least discussed was when he was talking about the short yardage situations, how the Steelers just weren't able to get that yard when they needed it. Now, there's always multiple factors in that. There's, the play calling. There's the ability of the quarterback to get outside. When Justin Fields was quarterback, he could hit outside. Yep. And that was a really, really tough 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 to stop. But it's also the other side of the ball. When you see the opponent on those occasions when they were effective running against the Steelers, not just the game in Baltimore, the 299, all of them, whenever that happened, it was up the gut. It wasn't something, they weren't hitting the edges. They weren't hitting the edges on TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. Okay. They were going up the gut. Chris, now at the same time, what I want to throw to you here is, when you think of the draft and you think of what the Steelers want to get out of the draft, everything really kind of aligns, because the Steelers want a defensive tackle. What's the draft have in abundance?
A lot of them.
A lot of
good
them.
defensive tackles, yeah.
The Steelers want a running back. They're going to get a running back. Closest I'm going to come to making any kind of prediction related to this draft.
Yeah.
And what's the draft have more of in quantity than any other position?
Running back. Yep.
Go get him. Go get him. It all seems to line up, right? We're talking a lot about quarterbacks, of course, because it's the sexy position and everything, but as it relates to the draft, but here they are.
Oh, and that's why, like, this entire time, I haven't been talking. It's not been until really like the last month that I've really started to dive into quarterbacks, because, the Steelers started doing a lot more homework on them when it comes to pro day visits and pre-draft visits, and that's the reason. But for a while now, it's been all about running back and defensive tackle in this draft, not only because they are two very, very strong positions, but because they are positions of need. I understand, like, you have your starters, right? You have Jaylen Warren. He's your starting running back. You have Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton. Those are your starting 2 defensive tackles when they're in nickel, which is what they're in more than anything else. But you need more. You need another running back to that room, and a running back who's going to be able to get touches right away. You need another defensive tackle that could come in and either just flat out take Keanu Benton's spot or push Keanu Benton to play to a higher level. Then you've got possibly 3 studs on the inside, and you can always use that, because you can always win in the trenches and make the rest of your team better. So it's a good thing for the Steelers that the draft really aligned this way, because the strengths of the draft are the 3 strongest positions are edge rusher, defensive tackle, and running back in that order, I think. And 2 of the 3 absolutely.
Whoa. You put edge rusher first?
Oh, 100%. Edge rusher is the best position. We don't talk about it because they don't need one. But in terms of,
it's the Steelers show, right? Okay.
And so that's why we haven't talked about edge rusher too much. But if you objectively look at edge rusher in this class, I mean, Abdul Carter is ridiculous. Like, I have a higher opinion of him. I'm not going to say he's going to turn into Micah Parsons. That's high praise, and that's not just because he wore his number 11 and went to Penn State, but he's ridiculous. He's ridiculous.
Micah Parsons is on his own shelf here.
He is. And then you have, I really like Mike Green out of Marshall. Like, there's a number of edge rushers in this class, and it goes deep. That's what I was saying. You would see we talked about, runs in the first round. You could see a run of edge rushers in the top 20. You might see 5 go. It's very possible.
Well, on the other side of the football, to the same subject matter. Mm-hmm. And Brian does a good job, I think, of getting us started here. He says, are the Steelers looking to draft a running back who's more like Bettis or more like Willie Parker? If you think about the 2024 brand of NFL running back, you think of kind of a hybrid, don't you? When I think, I'm thinking it's not so. It's more Jalen than it is Najee, but it's still somewhere in that range. You have to be able to chew off those angry runs. You have to get your extra yards after contact. You want to have that burst. You want to have that big play capability, which Najee, we knew this isn't even necessarily a criticism. We knew this coming out of college. He wasn't that guy. Le'Veon Bell actually wasn't that guy. One of the best running backs the Steelers have ever had. Mm-hmm. He wasn't that guy that was going to get you that 70-yarder, the Chris Johnson type. Yeah. The freak in the equation is Derrick Henry, where he can just do everything. Okay, yeah. He just does everything. Okay, well, there's a reason the Ravens are actually talking about extending him now, which is that just came up yesterday.
But I mean, why not?
I know why not, right? Yeah. But to Brian's question here, when I think right now, first thought to what you ask, Bettis or Willie, I think of the Steelers' instant affection that they developed for Kenneth Gainwell. And it was great when we're in that room, Chris, you and I, and we're listening to Gainwell just openly acknowledge that the Steelers told him they loved him on the field in Philadelphia when he was running against the Steelers. Yeah. They felt like there was no answer for him. He was doing all of that. He did run to the outside. He did break tackles. He did get extra yards. He did look like the guy that could hurt you downfield, and it makes sense. He's a kickoff returner too, so he's got the wheels. Are there enough of those types of guys? What's actually in the class, Chris? What's there?
Well, you have a lot of guys who are really fast, and I'll go ahead and pull up the combine numbers for them after I'm done talking, just because I can't look up something and talk at the same time. I can barely walk and chew gum at the same time. But a lot of guys who are not just fast. I mean, because you got, I think of guys like Trevion Henderson, who's sub 4.5, and you have a number of guys who are sub 4.5 at the running back position this year. But Quinshon Judkins, his teammate at Ohio State, bigger guy, also sub 4.5, like some really, really impressive speed. But then you have guys like Caleb Johnson, who ran like a 4.56, I think it was. And you're like, oh, he's not really much of a burner. But to turn on the tape, the game speed is different than the actual foot speed. And that sometimes is something that you have to take into account. 40-yard dash times are something. But with running back, it's not just about foot speed. It's your ability to make cuts. It's your ability to, how's your burst coming out of that cut? Because sometimes it's all about the acceleration that you can get so that you're already past the defender, and then the defender almost stands no chance of catching you unless they're just blatant, like a horribly, like, oh my gosh, faster than they are. So, but either way, you'll take chunks on the ground. So there are plenty of guys that can bring a lot of speed in this class, but Omarion Hampton, that name keeps coming up in the chat here.
It does.
Omarion Hampton is, in terms of physical gifts, might be the most physically gifted of all the running backs in this class, more than Ashton Genty in terms of just physical gifts.
Yeah.
But because he's got the size and he's got the speed, like both.
Well, it's interesting that only one person dares to bring up Ashton Genty in this chat, and that's John Wachewski says, what are the chances that Genty's still there at 8 to try to trade for Carolina's first? That buys me, incidentally, an opportunity to bring up. I did a show a couple days ago where I advocated for the Steelers to trade up to get Carolina's number 8 pick. When I did that, even though I said I would do that just to be open to other positions. Okay. If Carolina's offering, and I've got all these extra draft picks coming next year, and I feel like I feel like I can withstand giving up some picks. It doesn't have to be for quarterback. And I said that. Go up there and get your impact player that you want. Okay. I did say that. Oh my God, how could you advocate moving up for a quarterback, whatever? All the feedback came back. It was for whatever. Okay. If they believed, which was the way I worded it, in a quarterback that strongly, if they believed, not for positional need, if they believed in that player, then I'd be fine with them going to go get it. As it is, where's Genty going to go? He's going to the Raiders.
Most likely, yeah.
Most likely. So he's going to be gone regardless. So I actually admire the group's thinking here, which is don't even worry about that guy. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not getting him. Antonio Jackson says, and I don't even know if this is tongue in cheek here, but I love it regardless. Is how is the blitz pickup of the backs in this class? I'll tell you what, Tony, you come out to Latrobe and you watch these guys. Okay. The rookie running backs, that head coach, and I say this lovingly, will torment them. like he torments them as if they are tight ends. And if you'd have to be out there to know what I mean by that, okay? Because he goes at the tight ends like no other position. Mm-hmm. If you do not block, if you do not pick up blitzes, you will not play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have loved that about Mike Tomlin for years. Players, not so much. Eventually, though, the veterans, they felt that, and they went through those drills, and they went through all that tough love from Tomlin, and then they pass it along. You know, now it's Pat Freiermuth doing that with the rest of the tight ends. And this time around, it's going to be one of the best blocking running backs in the National Football League in number 30, doing that with the rest of the running backs. Chris, I got to tell you, I love the idea. We haven't really talked about this enough either. I love the idea of Jalen as the lead running back on this team.
There's a lot.
Really do.
There's a lot to like about it because he's done a lot of really good things, and we're not talking about just he averaged this, these many yards per carry or anything like that. It is legitimate when it comes to a lot of the metrics that you look for in a running back in today's day and age. I do think, just to protect yourself, just because of what he's done in 3 years, everything, the good and the bad, it would behoove the Steelers to make sure that there is support so that they're not going to run Jalen into the ground. If you expect Jalen to touch the ball 300 times this year, you're running a risk because he's played a lot of games, but he's also played a lot of games banged up. He's played a lot of games at less than 100%. And when I say less than 100%, I mean more significantly than most football players that are playing at less than 100%. I'm talking about enough where it actually affects his game, like really affects it. And so I do love the idea as well. And he's a really good fit for Arthur Smith's offense for the way he likes to run the ball. But to address the protection stuff, there are some running backs who are already really good at it. But even for guys like, and Trevion Henderson, I saw a couple of people did say Trevion Henderson out of Ohio State is the best in the class at it. He's already pro level at it. He's phenomenal at it. But then you have guys like Caleb Johnson who just aren't good, but the size and the willingness is there. They just got to be coached up on it. And
and that's something. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, of all the coaches that I trust on this staff, we talk about Carl Dunbar being probably the most trustworthy. Eddie Faulkner is getting up there too because he's done a lot of good things with the running backs over the years.
He has. And the coaching up aspect, this is all I was going to say, is something that the Steelers very much believe in. I don't know that they scout and look at college running backs and say, how is their blocking? That they're going to show you that. To them, blocking, I don't even know if blocking is a matter necessarily to them. I mean, of course, there's technique involved and there's play awareness and all that other stuff. But for this head coach, he takes that down to its raw essentials. It's a want-to. You either are you doing it because you have to, or are you doing it because you want to? If you don't enjoy run blocking, picking up blitzes, if you don't celebrate them, I don't mean literally celebrate them. If you don't internally go, I did it, I got that guy, then they just don't want you as a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And it's trial by fire too.
It is. If there's one thing that's worth watching in Latrobe, it's definitely
backs on backers. Yeah,
backs on backers for sure. But just in general, the way that they monitor that, the way that they're looking for that. Robert says, you have watched some Steelers games, Chris. Tomlin always goes easy on the running backs.
I don't know, DK. Have I watched any Steelers games?
Well, I'm more puzzled by the second part of that. Robert, there's these rolling grass hills in Latrobe. You can come out. It's free. You sit anywhere you want. You can watch this stuff for yourself. That's the best response that I can have to that, and kind and everything else here. And Robert at least has a sense of humor about being called out like this. I appreciate that. Our friend BH comes in with, if Golden is available at 21, are you taking him, Chris?
I'm really thinking about it. I really like Matthew Golden. He's my favorite receiver in the class. Reminds me a lot of Santonio Holmes, not just because of size, the similar size and speed, but his start-stop ability is ridiculous. And, oh, by the way, he ran the fastest 40 of all the receivers. He's one of the ones where I think the 40-yard dash doesn't exactly translate to the field the same way, but he's still really fast. But his start-stop ability is even, and he's really kind of starting to tap into his potential as a route runner. I really think he could be the most special of this. It's not an overly great group of receivers this year, but I think he could be special. I like him a lot. I'd really, really think about it. Depends on who else is on the board, but I'd think about it.
ES says, do you think Jaylen Warren's running style suits Arthur Smith's scheme better than Najee Harris's style? The answer to that, as you can see from the gentleman over to my side here, nodding emphatically like a bobblehead. This is Chris over here. He's like, this is him. There's Myron, and there's Roberto, there's Mario. They're all Chris right now. The answer to that is an emphatic hell yes. Arthur is a guy who wants to hit the holes quickly. Arthur wants you to get to the second level in a big hurry, and then from there, he wants you to do damage. You can say what you want about, and we do this a lot, comparing the Arthur Smith offense to what it was when he was in Nashville, because he had, the primo version of Derrick Henry. He had A.J. Brown. He had a really smart, systematic Ryan Tannehill. He had other weapons, and they did what he wants to do to an elite level. Okay. Mm-hmm. It was an elite level, what was happening with the Titans at the time. He was never going to benefit from having Najee's lack of self-identity, I guess would be one way to put it. Like, what did Najee want to be? One game he'd want to be Lev, where he'd want to just kind of do this. Okay. And another game you'd go, wow, this is the best back we've ever seen. And he's just tearing through people. And then he would blame it on the O-line or blame it on the scheme or who knows what. But with Jaylen, there's no excuses, no apologies, no nothing. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. You tell me where I'm supposed to run, I'm going there. And when I get through there, I'm hitting that second level like I mean it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Garrett here says Warren is way better fit for wide zone. He is. That's what Arthur Smith wants to do. And I'm not going to try to break down wide zone here, but essentially when you're running any kind of wide zone, outside zone, anything like that, you have to have, number one, you have to have some patience. But you also have the ability to put a foot in the ground and go. You have to be able to read the defense, read what the linebackers are doing, and whether it's you got to hit your primary attack point, which is either on the outside hip of the outside, whether it's the tight end or the tackle, or whether it's just off the tackle. You got to be able to read that, and then if you have to hit the cutback lane, then you got to hit the cutback lane, and you got to hit it hard, because if you don't, you're not going to get anything from it. And Jaylen does that really, really well. He's a really good fit for what Arthur Smith wants to do. And also Jaylen just gets extra yards through elite contact balance, which I think I don't know why. Like, it's funny because when you watch Jaylen Warren now, what he's done in the NFL, it's ridiculous that he went undrafted, but
it really is, especially since you could recognize it in Latrobe, his first camp. You could see right away, well, this was just dumb. Why was this guy not taken by anybody?
Yep. And just because
it wasn't like he blossomed over time. He just came into camp and he looked like Jaylen.
He literally took a roster spot in his first camp. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we signed him to the practice squad and you're gonna give him. No, he earned a 53-man spot right away. And he looked like a bowling ball in Latrobe that summer. That was a special.
Here's a question from Greg Haas, who says, in regards to attacking the middle of the field via the passing game and the Steelers' reluctance to do so over the last several seasons, how much do you attribute that to play calling versus the quarterback not progressing through his reads? And please don't yell at me for not being a member. I promise I'll join following this. This is Taylor's dad. He wants us to not yell at him for not being First off, Taylor's dad is not a member. Let's call that out. for what it is. Okay. Chris, of course, having spent the entire morning with Taylor, helping her out at the Penguins locker cleanout up in Cranberry. Did you run into Greg Haas up there, Chris?
I did not.
You did not. Okay.
I'm trying not to laugh too hard. This is good.
It's a totally great question, though. Okay. Because what he's saying is, and we think it all the time, when you're not thrown to the middle of the field, what's the first thing that comes up after the game is, it was the coordinator. But sometimes it's just the quarterback. Sometimes the play calls are there. Sometimes the guys are open, especially in Russell Wilson's case, where he has a history of not throwing to the middle of the field. So it's tough to answer in the general sense, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm sorry. This is too good. No. So, yeah, I have a very, very strong belief that this is not an Arthur Smith issue whatsoever. Arthur Smith, when he was having it, everybody. Okay. Just really quick. The whole Arthur Smith was only good because of Derrick Henry is just, it's a farce. I don't believe it whatsoever, and I will never be convinced otherwise. And one of the reasons why is because he knew how to take advantage of the play action game because the running game was so strong. And one of the reasons why, I can't tell you how many times, go look up the tape. How many times did Ryan Tannehill run play action and hit A.J. Brown on a dig over the middle? It just happened so much. That's what, and honestly, you can do that with DK Metcalf. That's what bringing DK Metcalf in does. And you need a quarterback who can hit that over the middle. It absolutely could be Mason Rudolph. And yes, I don't want to bring his name. It could be the guy who we're not going to talk about today either. It could be him too. It could be even a guy that they draft. You just need to find a guy who's willing to throw to that portion of the field. Let everything else take care of itself. And the past couple of seasons, you've not really, you've either had a coordinator who didn't want to attack the middle of the field. That's not the case with Arthur Smith. Then you had a quarterback who's not good at attacking it, or at least doesn't want to attack it enough.
Let's flip to the other side of the ball here, Chris, because we did say that we were gonna attack that from both perspectives here. Michael Collins says, and again, the subject today is the middle of the field, and as it relates to the draft. But your existing team and your existing scheme also weigh into that. Michael Collins says, are the Steelers getting too predictable on defensive schemes? TJ Watt mentioned about moving around more. Do you think that'll happen? I do think it'll happen, Chris, but at the same time, when you're talking about predictability on defense, it's not just where TJ lines up, is it? There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, there really is. I do think the defense could stand to have another wrinkle or two in it, and moving TJ around is probably one of the best wrinkles you can do, because then it creates a lot of other things, because now the offense they always have to account for where TJ is. I don't care what the opinions are of TJ right now because of what the extension that he's going to get or anything. The offense is always going to pay attention to where TJ is. They're always going to have to slide protection to where he is. And so you can find different ways to attack that. You can find different. I mean, sometimes certain running backs are better running to the right than they are to their left, or vice versa. And the offense tries to tailor to those things. They try to tailor to their players' strengths. And when you move TJ around, you might make the offense a little bit more uncomfortable. That being said, I also think that the Steelers looked at the way that the Eagles played defense in the Super Bowl and looked at it and were like, that's how we want to play. And the Eagles didn't do a whole bunch of revolutionary stuff.
No, they're not radical. Yeah,
they just rushed 4 guys all night long and just tore Patrick Mahomes to shreds because they just kept winning up front. Sometimes you just need better players up front,
and that's where this goes. Yeah, because in addition to being able to get back to the quarterback, the stuff that we talk about whenever we get into our debates about Keanu Benton and what kind of style he should be playing, we know that he can get back to the quarterback. We know he can get to the backfield. What we don't know is that he's that guy who can do both. He can find a way to make sure he's doing that and stopping the run. And the Eagles, they just say, here's this, and this. Go get them, boys.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful luxury for a coordinator to have. It's something that's special, and it's something that gets you to the Super Bowl. Almost regardless of what kind of offense you have. The Eagles, I think, this is not a knock on Jalen Hurts, but I think the Eagles have mastered the 2020s, the decade formula of getting there without the Superman
100%.
Cape guy. Okay, we'll get there. We will get there, but we'll do it by just tearing you apart from the middle. I wonder how many people, whenever they watch this show, Chris, go, hey, Eagles, man, come on, enough. This Philadelphia, whatever. You got to understand, they have set the template. Respect. Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that because they went and poached Andy Weidel, but it's part of it.
Yeah, 100%.
They got Andy for a reason. Because they looked at what's going on over there. Of course, Andy has his Pittsburgh roots. Andy also interviewed for the GM job along with Omar Khan. Omar ended up getting it, but they were like, hey, we want you too. And got that done. There's no shame in that, No. Copycat stuff happens all over sports. Ben says, I think Mason Rudolph can definitely lead the Steelers to a playoff win with his current weapons and assuming a stud running back is added. What do you see as the floor and ceiling in 2025? I'm not sure if you're saying, well, you are using the word added here. I wouldn't paint that as if Jaylen Warren isn't that guy. Jaylen Warren's an RB1.
Yeah. In
the National Football League. I'm not saying he's Saquon. There's one of those.
Yeah.
Okay. But Jalen's an RB1. Let's hear. Robert says we're trying to dominate the line I want us to dominate the line on both sides. Chris, if you get yourself, even at 21, if you get yourself the defensive tackle, not necessarily Grant, the guy you want. Although that would be,
I'm almost like Grant and Harmon are like really, really close.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
Well, there's other names that come into that class too in a lot of discussions around that range, which is part of the beauty of defensive tackle is you wouldn't have to move in one direction or the other to get the guy you would legitimately see as BPA, and he'd be a defensive tackle. If he's out there, what happens to this team? How different does it look? What's the change? What's the upgrade? Just using like the baseball WAR argument, wins above replacement player. Okay. What's the difference between this player like this and Larry Ogunjobi?
Well, I mean, first off, Larry O, I felt like was playing injured every single year he was in Pittsburgh.
And before that.
Yeah. I mean, he's just like, so you're number one, going to get youth. Youth is a huge thing. Energy. I mean, not to switch sports too much, but look at what some youth did for the Penguins down the stretch. Injecting talented youth into a roster absolutely matters.
Change the old guys.
Yeah.
Look at that. Not again. We can do this all day, but in the Penguins game last night against the Capitals.
Yeah.
You look at that power play and you see Ville Koivunen he's 22 years old. He's dancing all over the zone.
Yeah.
And he throws it down low to Sid. Sid goes behind his back to Rust and there's a goal. But what made it happen?
Yeah.
It was the kid doing this in the right circle. I think you can have that effect on a defensive line. He can make 100%. Everybody feel more brash. He can make them more effective. Can you picture? Actually, you don't even have to picture. All you have to do is remember Cam with Stephon Tuitt.
Yep.
You didn't know what to do as an offense. You didn't know what to do, and they didn't need any help. They didn't need any nose tackle. You put 91 and 97 out there, and like we were talking about with the Eagles, just go get them.
Yep.
Just go win.
And the other thing that it does is that it creates competition. Now, Cam doesn't need competition. He's an all-pro, and he's going to be there until he decides to hang it up. But Keanu Benton has 2 years left on his rookie contract. If the Steelers take a defensive tackle in the first round, remember Keanu Benton was not just a second-round pick, but the second of 2 second-round picks. So he was a later second-round pick. The Steelers are pretty much already saying, like, okay, it's time to put up or shut up. You're going to have some competition coming in because we're not drafting a guy 21st overall to come in and, I'm going to learn and sit for a year. No, he's going to come in. He's going to try to earn some playing time right away. Whether Mike Tomlin wants to actually say it or not, let it actually play out in Latrobe because these guys are talented. This is a really good defensive tackle class. If they get Kenneth Grant or Derek Harmon or Walter Nolan or any of these guys, they're talented guys. They can unseat Keanu Benton. I think very highly of Benton. I think he can be a really good NFL player. and better than what he's been in the first 2 years. But if the Steelers take a guy there, they are going to be taking him for a reason, and it'll be to play pretty soon. So he's got to up his game.
Our friend the Pef out in the eastern part of the state asks, if the Steelers stick and pick at 21, will they try to trade up from 83, that of course being their third round pick, to get a pick sooner? I mean, Omar Khan told you, Chris, in Palm Beach, Florida, a couple of weeks ago, that he wants to do that. In a general sense, when a GM, again, any sport, puts that up on a billboard, they're doing it for a reason. Mm-hmm. They want teams to know, just in case they didn't already, without necessarily sending a group text, fellow GMs, okay, that says, hey, everybody, the Steelers are willing and enthusiastic about moving up to the second round. We would love to get that pick back. Let's talk about it. The way these things tend to develop is there's lots of discussions. There's lots of things that get put on the platter, so to speak. They know about them going into the draft, but teams will most often actually, want to wait to see how the draft unfolds before they get to that. So don't expect anything to happen in advance.
Yeah.
But if you go into day 2, also don't be surprised if all of a sudden, whoa, Pittsburgh has moved up to get so-and-so, because what they'll do is they'll pick from their list of offers. They'll call them, say, hey, you still on for this? Yeah, we're still on. All right, good. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. And they'll move up. Chris, do you feel that Omar can do this from a position of strength because of all these comp picks they know they have coming the following year?
Absolutely, and that's what Denny asks here, is are we more likely to trade future picks knowing we have compensatories coming? That's why you play the comp game. It gives you flexibility to do stuff. I mean, you can trade your third round pick next year knowing you're going to get at least one just for Dan Moore alone, and you could get multiple third rounders if Russell Wilson plays enough snaps and Justin Fields plays enough snaps and plays well enough. Like, you could end up, if you never trade your third round pick next year and everything good happens and the stars align, you can end up with four third round picks next year. I don't think that's going to happen. The chances of that happening, but you're going to get one just for Dan Moore signing that $80 million contract that he got from the Titans. So you can, in theory, trade your current one now, because you can't trade compensatories you don't have yet, but you can trade your current third round 2026 pick, and knowing that you're going to be getting more picks later on down the road. So yes, it gives you flexibility to be able to do whatever you want. You can possibly move up if that's what you want to do, to be able to do that.
I'm going to take a couple more today. Denny, going back to our theme of winning the middle of the field, asks, are the Steelers confident in Spencer Anderson as a guard, or will they be addressing that in the draft as well? Is that more important than tackle? I could see a guard as a late rounder, couldn't you?
Oh, yeah. I could see
Isaac Seumalo's up there. You don't know necessarily what you have in Mason McCormick,
Yeah, there are a few, and even a few of the tackles in this class. I would say actually a good amount of the tackles in this class could possibly be interior linemen at the NFL level, because they don't have the length, the arm length that they need to. Yeah, you have to have arm length unless you are really, really, really athletic. You pretty much have to have the arm length in order to last a tackle in the NFL at the NFL level. I think it could happen. I like Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia. He's more third round. That's kind of early. That's more mid round, a little earlier. But he's a tackle that could possibly kick inside. There are a few options that you could do. It's not anything that's going to, it's not going to be an earth-shattering move or anything like that, but it's still something you can add positional depth. And who knows? I mean, Mason McCormick, to me, played much better than I expected him to, given the circumstances last year.
And he's got that fight in him.
Oh, yeah.
Which is one of those intangibles. I'm going to, invoke our mutual and unfortunately recently lost friend, Craig Wolfley. Wolf believed in Mason McCormick. He saw that fight in him, and Wolf was an old guard himself, and nobody watched those offensive linemen like a hawk the way Wolf did. For good and bad. Mostly good. Is a really positive person, obviously. And whenever I heard the initial blessing on McCormick from Wolf, I stopped asking questions.
Yeah.
No, really.
Yeah, no, yep, exactly. And again, given the circumstances, because they did not draft him to start that many games in the fourth round out of South Dakota State. They just did not. They had James Daniels. The plan was for him to sit for a year, learn, let James Daniels start at right guard, let Sam Olu start at left guard, and then figure things out after that. You got thrown to the fire. You had to play, and he played. And again, given the circumstances, I thought he did really well.
Now that's good stuff. We're gonna take one more here. One more. He throws the hint to the production staff. Garrett says, "I'd like to see them grab a young guy in the late rounds to play swing OL." Are there a lot of college kids, Chris, that can just show up at a camp and say, "Yeah, I can do left tackle and right tackle equally well"? Or is that something that just becomes an NFL? We'll teach you how to do that the way they did with Spence.
Well, the good thing is now, Spencer in college played a lot of positions. So sometimes those kids are already playing multiple positions up front. And so those are usually the guys that become a little bit more valuable later on, because obviously when you're taking a guy in the 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, you're not drafting him to start right away. You're drafting him to try to develop him a little bit and to turn him into something, to take the traits that you like and mold him into something more than what he was at the college level. And if you turn him into something, or he turns himself into something, phenomenal. You just won, because that's what happens with that portion of the draft. But yeah, I mean, you take the traits that are tantalizing, and then you coach them up. You try to figure it out. But fortunately nowadays, because football is becoming more and more of a sport that requires versatility, you're seeing more and more linemen having already played multiple spots up front, not just a guy who's, I played left guard for every single snap in college. No, they usually probably played more snaps than just at one position.
Good stuff. Next week, big week ahead for all of us, Chris and myself included. I know that, but that also begins for us in earnest on Tuesday with the meeting that Mike Tomlin, and it's Tuesday, right? Not Monday.
Yes, it's Tuesday.
Tuesday morning. Yeah, with Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan. Chris and I will be over there covering that. We'll, of course, be on here all week long. And don't forget, next week is when we start our members only stuff. So you're going to need to go to that URL that's that way underneath Chris. See it over there, dkps.net/join is where you want to go. See you next week, Chris.
All righty. Looking forward to it.
Okay, now the way that I was supposed to sign off with Chris, let me open this up here because I did save it. It's on my screen. This was from Dan Van, who contributed $10 yesterday. He said, "Is DK still workshopping his Chris sign off? How about, thanks, Chris, for helping me pull today's double shot." I don't even know what pull today's double shot means, but I was supposed to say it today to Chris and I forgot about it, but I just went and said it now. So that kind of counts at least a little bit. Robert Sham comes up with the point of all points today, which is happy Easter to everybody. Let's take care of some business. Fishing for Trout came in with one gifted membership. That's appreciated. Pittsburgh Fan 412 has been a member for 20 months. And that's another thing that happens when you become a member, by the way, that's really cool, is we get these notifications here of each month, especially as the longer out that you get. And we'll put you up here as part of the program as well. We have a couple of brand new members here, the Fan of Fishing. What's with all the fishing motifs? Jeff Bowling says, I'm a new member as well. Antonio Jackson asked a really good question in this one and also gifted 5. Our friend BH, I love when you guys try to get these like gnarly names in, and think, oh man, we're going to sneak this on there and he's going to have to say it out loud. But see, I don't. Like there's a couple of them that are like, if I had said them out loud.
This one is not bad.
This one? No, it's not bad. A couple of them were. They know who they are. You know who you are. Frosty Yinzer became a new member today as well. The way for you to become a member and to join our rush, and that's what it is. It is a rush to 3,000 members, is to go to dkps.net/join. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the boss has put up the latest count. That's a nice little bump too. 1,846. I feel like, in the stock market, they call it a line of, is it resistance if it's up? or is resistance down? I can't remember.
Floor and ceiling.
Yeah, no, there's another word for it where you keep
Resistance, you gotta go through.
you keep bumping up against. Yeah, you keep bumping up against a line. Come on, one of you financial people, put it on the screen here. There's if you're trying to break through something in the stock market and you're just not getting through. Come on, nobody really. Anyway, once you poke through it, like if we poke through 2000, I have a feeling we're going to see a rush, like a surge that'll get us on the path to the next level and on up to 3000. But that's the kind of stuff that gets us. Here it is. It's support and resistance. See, Freeman comes in, and that's it. Support is the bottom one because it's the bottom. Okay, it's supporting you from a further fall. But resistance is we're trying to get up there at the top. That Carol says, I can't talk about the stock market. I can't even balance a checkbook. To which I ask, what is a checkbook? Boss takes care of all the business stuff. Deborah says, how long do you get those green boxes? How do you get those green boxes for how long your membership is? I've been a member for 16. I have no idea. Joy just says resistance is futile.
Nothing but a flesh wound.
Nothing. Tis but a flesh wound. If you guys don't get that, just Google it. Your day will have. Yeah, see. Look at Chris. Bring Chris in for a second here. We can do that. Can you do the whole routine?
I not right now because I'm laughing too hard. But man alive, I love the Monty Python stuff. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I got a Monty Python question in my live queues on our site. Last week. Yes. Somebody was asking like a 4-part question, and then they asked me like, what is the airspeed velocity of a laden swallow? And of course I responded the correct way of being like, what do you mean? An African or a European swallow? So good.
Awesome stuff. There are some of those skits that I could watch just 100 times. The one that gets me, we're not on any time limit here. Is when the guy, I am your king, and he approaches the hill to the French guy.
Yeah.
Look, listen to this. She's just hearing. We're not even getting started here. All right, we'll call it a draw. And he's lost all his limbs. People, find if you don't know what we're talking about, if you're too young or whatever, find "Tis But a Flesh Wound." Okay. Now go away, or I will taunt you a second time.
It's not on Netflix anymore, by the way. I found that out the hard way. It's
a shame.
It's still.
It's all right here on YouTube. Just type up the individual scenes. But when the French guy at the top of the hill, is yelling down to them, and he is, I fought in your general direction. Are we allowed to say that on this show?
Your mother was a hamster.
Your mother was a hamster. Listen to the boss is dying over here.
It's such a good movie.
Oh no!
Like top 5 movies of all time. It's so good.
When Lancelot looks at the French castle's wall with his sword, or hacks at the French castle's wall with his sword, I die. And your father smelt of elderberries.
Elderberries, that's right.
All right, guys, from all of us to all of you, thanks so much for being with us. Thanks for becoming a member. We're going to load up these memberships. Let's do that next week, and we're going to have our first members only stuff, and no one's allowed to get mad about it because you already have been members, and it's 99 cents. Just go ahead and do it. DKPS.net/join. Draft week coming up.